888-878-6996 or click on one of our Stay Cool ads at KCAAradio.com. Psst. Hey, you. Yeah, you. Do you know where you are? Well, you've done it now. You're listening to KCAA Loma Linda, your CNBC news station. So expect the unexpected.
Welcome to U-Turn Radio. Here at U-Turn Radio, we believe in big-hearted communities and small government. Join your hosts, Nadia Renner, Tom Murphy, and Eric Steinman, as we work to put local governments on a diet and champion the charities that support your community. So come on, join us and let's turn it around.
Welcome to U-Turn Radio. Happy Sunday. We are so happy to be here. We have a fantastic show today, a full show today too. Everybody's here live in studio. We have a guest with us today. For the second time, we have Mayor Jeff Hewitt with us today. It's going to be a great show because we've been covering San Bernardino County Fire for the last few shows that we've had here. We went from what they're trying to do, what the budget is, how it's FP5. We've had Bob Cable from Cable Airport talk to us and talk about how it affects his business. You can find all those amazing shows because they're so informative on uturnradio.com. And last show we were talking about solutions. It was County Fire Solutions Part 1. This is going to be Solutions Part 2 with our guest because he's done it and he's talking from experience, so it's going to be a great show. Also here on U-Turn Radio, if you have a favorite charity that works here in the Inland Empire, we are more than happy to donate money to them. Or if you work for an actual charity, call us up and let us know what you guys do here in our county. Our phone number is 909-792-5222. That's 909-792-5222. We got Tom, we got Eric, and like I said, we got Jeff Hewitt in the building. Welcome, everybody. Happy Sunday.
Hey, thank you.
We are really happy to be here.
Eric, are you happy to be here?
Eric's not so happy. His thumb hurts.
So we have a great show with Jeff Hewitt today, like I was mentioning, Tom. Let's talk a little bit about Mr. Jeff Hewitt.
Sure. Yeah. Jeff is the mayor of Calamasa, as we mentioned, but also he is running hard for the district supervisor position in Riverside. I think his campaign's going pretty well. He's got a little bit of a push here to get to the end of the line. He's not the end of the line. Hopefully this election won't result in your death. Hopefully it'll result in success. And it's been fun to watch your campaign work. And one of the things that we really like Jeff for is because he's proven at a government level, government scale, that there is a way to do business that's pay as you go and stays within budget. He's actually done it, and that's why we're excited about having him.
Absolutely. So before we get started, I'm going to recap because we've had you in the studio before and we had a fantastic interview. So I feel like I definitely know everything about you because last interview we covered a lot of things. So just for the people that are not familiar, let me just recap a little bit. You can also find the full interview on uturnradio.com. But you were born here in Redlands Community Hospital, right? And tell me if I'm wrong because like I said, I feel like I really know you. You were raised with your parents. You have siblings. Your parents or your father was a business owner here in Inland Empire, and your mom was a teacher. Your mother was a teacher. So you really didn't have a political background as far as the parents go. You grew up here, you went to school, and you went to San Diego after high school. You went there for a little bit, and then you came back, you raised your family out here, and you started your own business, digging pools.
That's right.
Right?
I've dug a lot of swimming pools, yes.
But it took you, I love that story because I think that's one of the stories that I truly remember. Last time you were here, you were asking for a job at the time and you knocked like on 29 doors, if I'm not mistaken, and everybody shut you down until you got to the 30th knock and somebody gave you that opportunity at 18 years old because they thought you were wild and crazy thinking that you were going to be able to dig pools with the Bobcat that you
Yeah,
had
little
bought, right?
Bobcat, skid steer loader, right.
Because that didn't exist back then. So everybody.
Well, they had just come out with them a few years before and started shipping them out here to the West Coast, but I was the first one to actually apply that to digging a backyard swimming pool, yes.
And so then finally you got your opportunity. Young 18-year-old, they said, yes, you could do it. And you started digging pools all over the Inland Empire. Is that correct?
Well, I actually, down there, I started around San Diego.
Okay.
And then when I moved back up here to raise my family, I brought that up here. And so over the last several decades, I've dug a lot of swimming pools, yes.
So, from the interview we had, you said something along the lines, so you went from digging something like 500 pools a year to then recession hitting and only doing about 6 in a year.
Yes, and so really I kind of backed into politics more by accident than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't ever envisioned myself as being a politician or someone that was going to go up there and try to solve these problems. But I was on the planning commission at the time in the city of Calamasa, and I was asked to be on the city council by another city councilman that was retiring. He said, Jeff, I think you'd make a good city councilman. And he went ahead and he ran my campaign, and I won. And so for the last 8 years, that's what I've been doing. And I've become very, very political because I found that when you've got that same just dogged determination that I had when I was knocking on those 29 different business doors,
Right.
if you do that and apply it to politics and getting things done for the people, it works out pretty well.
Also, we covered on our last show, we covered about, getting the right people to do things because they care. And I feel like from that interview, we definitely got that you're a person that cares about the people. Because back then, when you first got your job, the job only paid $300 a month.
It
right?
still pays $300.
Oh, $300.
Yeah, but that's before taxes. I actually get $277 after taxes.
Okay, because we actually mentioned that, and we're talking about that, like who's somebody that would take maybe nothing or just a little bit, or and it has to be people
Or the average amount that everybody else makes
or that, right?
in the county.
So we were talking about those type of things. Like it takes a particular leader, somebody that truly cares to do these type of changes in our community.
Well, and I look at all the people that are putting their faith in their leaders to do the right thing. And a lot of times, like I say, it has nothing to do with money. I don't do this for money, and even running for county supervisor, it's not about the money for me at all. I couldn't care less about that. What I do care is the ability to change things for not only my neighbors and other people my own age, but for my kids and my grandkids and your kids and your grandkids.
Right, which is something that we definitely cover here a lot just for the upcoming generations, One thing, too, that we've learned last interview is that you reached out to Jerry Lewis way before this, and you wrote him a letter saying it was for what, for balancing their budget, right?
Yeah, balancing the national budget. That's right.
And you were like, I'm gonna just send him a letter and write to him, and he called you back.
Yeah, that actually showed me that each voter, each person that lives here in this country has a lot more power than you think you do. We get overwhelmed. There's just, you see millions of people voting at particular issue. There's so much money involved now in politics. But sometimes just writing that letter, whether it be an email today or the way I did it was on, a piece of paper, handwritten in cursive, and to be able to get within about a week a call back from Washington from one of the highest ranking congressional leaders at the time, it really emboldened me to think, hey, maybe if sometime I need to do or change something, I can. So we all think of how we can make things better. Very few people get the opportunity like myself to actually carry that out.
And I share that story because I think it's really important to show that, when you want to make a difference or you have an idea and you just have to do something about it to try to get either a change or try to, get something in return to do better.
Yeah, most of this stuff is not rocket science. Most of this stuff is just common sense. And you'll see, hey, look, why don't we do it this way? And then you find out usually it's a very, very powerful force on the other side, usually what we would call a special interest, and they're keeping things from going the way that they should go.
Let's take that and get into the meat of what we're going to cover today, which is what is the solution that we can bring forward with Jeff's presence for some of these budget problems at the fire department here in San Bernardino County.
Yeah, let's for the listeners, let's kind of relay the foundation. Basically, County Fire in San Bernardino came to the table, the budget table this year, and said, "Hey, we're in the hole, $29 million, and we'll go ahead and take care of it the way we usually do, which is we'll dip into our reserves, and you county, you'll kick in some from the general fund." But
well, let me interrupt you a second, Tom, on that. It's not just a this year thing. This is the train passing by that increases about 10% every year. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So it's pretty clear that this is not a one-year problem. It's going to keep becoming a problem of greater significance because they can't restrict their budget increases to the increase in the value of property or inflation or anything else. They're miles ahead of all that. So it's caught up with them, and it's beyond probably the county's mean to keep funding it in this way. So they're looking for other ways to do that.
Right, and the way they decided to solve this issue in the future on recommendation of Chief Hartwig was to go ahead and pass a resolution to expand a fire prevention zone.
Well, that's not to solve it for the future. Even by his own admission, that's to solve it for 1 year, or maybe not even completely for 1 year, right?
If I remember correctly, it would give him everything he needed except for, I think he'd be $2 million short.
So even after they do that, they're short, and they're increasing their budget another year, and on we go.
Yeah. So they're going to do this FB5 zone expansion. They're going to use kind of this not unusual. They're going to use a procedure where it's not a straightforward yes/no vote to the voters like it should be, because it's a special tax. It's being imposed on the entire 19,000 square miles of the unincorporated area of the county. Instead of a straightforward yes/no vote, they're doing this kind of protest thing where essentially everybody's already voted yes. And to actually vote no, you gotta go find some paperwork, fill it out, get the parcel number, all that stuff, and then send it in.
Yeah,
so
they mailed everybody a notice and didn't bother to mail them the thing where you vote no.
Yeah, you have to go find it.
You have to download it.
Well, that's called opt-in or opt-out, and that's 180 degrees different on anything. When you make a rule and you make it so that you have to physically opt out, most people don't understand what's going on. They don't get a chance, whatever.
Bingo.
Like the $10 non-op fee that the DMV put in a couple of decades ago. When you've got something that you no longer are using and it's sitting out in a field, if you didn't do that $10 non-op, the fees just go on and on like it's a living thing,
Right.
And so it's very important. So that's a tricky thing that governments use. Always get it so people have to opt out, and you'll get a lot more money. The state has gotten hundreds of millions of dollars from that,
right?
And it's insidious, you see. So here's what I look at it. There's two sides to any equation. You have revenue and costs. And what happens is a lot of times governments will look at it and we say our costs are going up. How can we go ahead and keep up? Well, we got to raise revenues, and there's several ways to do it. We can do it through right now, as we're talking, 17 cities in LA County are talking they're putting it to the voters for anywhere from a half to a 1 cent sales tax. In fact, Santa Ana's doing two different things. It'll be a 1.5 cent sales tax to deal with these same issues. The escalating costs of public safety, mostly, fire and police.
Right.
And you can do it with a fire tax. The city of Canyon Lake did it with a utility surcharge tax. For instance, the city of Calamasa, had we taken that path, instead of actually looking on the other side of the equation and said, how can we cut costs? We would have, a 1 cent sales tax wouldn't have generated enough at all because we're too small of a city and we don't have that much commercial. But we probably would have gone with some kind of parcel fee like what they're doing here, or either that or utility surcharge. But this is what really gets me is why don't they first look at how we can cut costs? Because this is not going to go away. It just keeps going up and up and up. And when revenues, if we had more people moving in, there's added revenue and everything without actually adding the percent of a tax that each person pays, you might make that argument. But instead, they don't look at cutting costs, and there's a lot of big reasons why.
Right, that's kind of
what we want to do is provide solutions and not just be pointing out problems. And so what Jeff's done in the city where he's the mayor is they did take a different look at it, and they put, when the county came to him, Jeff, can you relate the story of, in general terms, of what the budget looked like and what they wanted you to do and why you couldn't go forward and what you did in response to that?
Yeah, so, in, I think it was about April of 2016, we received a letter from Riverside County CEO, Jay Orr at the time, And it was in response to a lawsuit going on with the city of Canyon Lake that said you must have 3 firefighters on your one engine staffing at all times by July of 2017, or you will no longer receive service from the county. Now, we'd received service from the county for the entire 27 years that we've been in existence. But they kind of said that, like, go ahead and do whatever you want, knowing that we as a city had really no means to go away from them, because there had already been made lots of laws by the firefighters union and lobby to make it, except for like a charter city like San Bernardino, you could not contract out for private service like Rural Metro. There's a big company that's private and they can provide service. So we looked at our options, and it was pretty tough. I actually wanted an all-volunteer fire department. I brought the captain in, the fire chief from the city of Blythe, which had a 100-year-old all-volunteer fire department. And here you got a city of 29,000 people who was spending $440,000 a year for their fire protection. We, a city of Calamasa at that time with 2 firefighters, Cal Fire, were spending $1.4 million, for a city of 8,500.
Okay, wow.
So we brought him in, but we realized that our demographics were so much different because Blythe is so remote. It's unique in the sense that most of the people that live there also work around there.
Right.
So they on every call, they would have 6 of their 35 certified volunteers on every call. It was great. But that wouldn't work here. And Chief Billy Kim actually took me aside and says, Jeff, you need to do some kind of hybrid, but you need to find a chief. And that's what started. So when I did that, it's one of the most regulated businesses there is in the world, is fire service. So once I got my chief, I found my chief through some real luck. And we brought an assistant consultant along with it. They were actually hired them as consultants. And we started setting up our own in-house fire department. And there was a course of about a year and a half where they worked hours and hours and hours, 7 days a week. And we went through all these challenges and everything. But January of this year, we went ahead and kicked out Cal Fire. And now we have staffing of 4, double the staffing that we had before, and we kept our $1.4 million budget. It would have been right now at about 2.1. Within 2 years, it would have been at least 2.4 because we have the quotes already given to Canyon Lake, which were the same as ours.
And money your city just didn't simply have, right?
Well, no. And again, we could have done what everybody else did and said, hey, we need this. Look, we can't help it. You guys want to die. You want good service, blah, blah, blah. We've actually given double the service now and saved. In 2 years, we'll be saving 20% on our general fund.
And the other feature of that is your retirement system has changed, right?
Well, okay, so the kicker, the icing on the cake is probably the most important thing, is that all 18 of our firefighters now are no longer on CalPERS. Our firefighters are on 401k style defined contribution pensions that are totally sustainable. Totally sustainable.
Okay, pay as you go, right?
Sustainable because
right.
You put the contribution in and it performs as it's invested.
Exactly, and
there's
you don't.
No one coming back to future generations.
No. The retiree cannot receive any more after they retire than what their employer they have put in and invested in what those investments have made. That's a defined contribution, and that's what all of the private sector has.
That was virtually all the private sector. So we're probably north of 80% of the private sector have that type of pension plan. If they have a pension plan at all, I think a majority don't even have a pension plan.
Yeah, a lot of them don't. But again, so this is what's happened, and in our city, we don't have to worry about this oncoming pension tsunami, at least for the vast majority of our employees, which are in our fire department.
Which I really appreciate that about that effort, is that it's pay as you go. And that there's, like we've said, we're not saddling the backs of your grandkids with this, pension debt.
And the service is, what do you have, twice the staffing level as you had before?
Twice the staffing level. And we actually have a brand new engine also, that before we had a 13-year-old engine. We still own that, but that's the one that Cal Fire was using. That became our backup. So we have 2 fully equipped engines. You have to have, when you only have one, you have to have a backup in case it's down or being serviced. But right now, if there's a big wildfire somewhere, we can always contribute a 4-man engine to something, whereas we couldn't have before.
And what about the staffing for a 4-man engine? You have the ability for 4-man staffing now whereas you had 2 before. Is that correct?
Well, that's because we're non-union, and our firefighters are paid the lowest for full-time professional firefighters for at least a 100-mile radius. And this is something we're real proud of. And you say, hey, how do you get the best of the best? Well, it turns out there's 1,000 applicants for every full-time firefighter job in Southern California. So you're thinking, what happens to the other 999?
Right.
There's some darn good recruits.
Yeah.
And you get guys and girls. We actually have 2 women on our staff. And you get the people that are doing it for the right reason. And if you ask them, people come up and ask them, and they say, why are you doing this for so little money? They go, we tried so many places to get on. You got to be like winning American Idol. It's about like that. And they say, we love it here. We came in here. It's given us a chance to get in here, and we love it. It's like a family. Also, our fourth on our engine is considered a intern reserve. So they get a $50 stipend for 24 hours. So they're coming in, so when we get that little bit higher turnover, because, hey, when they get a chance to go on to another department and make more, hey, that's great. But we got somebody that can step right into their place that's already been on the engine and working with them.
And it's not that they're getting paid very low wages. It's they're getting paid in comparison to the average wages in Calamasa, for instance. How are they being compensated?
Oh, yeah. No, they're still making plenty enough to own a house and cars and everything else. But remember, there's a unique nature of fire service anyway. Most of these full-time firefighters, they're at the station for 10 days out of 30. So that means they're at home for 20 days every month. For most of the firefighters that I've done swimming pools for, they all have their own businesses. So, I mean, there are things about this business that are completely unique. Everybody wants to be one, and we give a lot more people a chance to get in there without breaking the backs of our citizens.
What were some challenges that you came across while you were trying to input all this process for Calamasa?
Well, the large fire chiefs, especially in Riverside County, Chief Hawkins for all of Riverside County CAL FIRE, was going to do anything he could to make sure that we didn't exist. And the unions, they might hate each other from different fire services, but they come together on the fact when some non-union one comes in, they will quash you in any way. There were a lot of hijinks that went on, a lot of hijinks. And it took a lot of stick-to-itiveness and a lot of innovative ideas on our own to get past it.
And you had to work with being one of 5 people on the council or something? Or?
Yes, it would not have been possible had I not gone ahead and got the full faith of the council to begin with. And the hardest one to get...
Or at least a majority, right?
City council.
You say majority, but when something that's this difficult, remember there was not one elected that thought I would pull this off.
Mm-hmm.
Not one elected in the entire area thought I would pull it off. And they were all going, wow, you pulled it off. But you know what? You have to have a unanimous council. You cannot have any weaknesses when you take on a challenge like this. And getting my city manager was the toughest because she's been in City of Colton, City of Redlands, City of Banning as a finance director and stuff like that. And she'd seen the challenges and the difficulties. She says, Jeff, you've got a great idea, but this is impossible. And when I finally got her on board, I knew we had a real chance because she's amazing. And our staff.
So how did you get 5 people together at the city level to do this?
I guess I'm very, very persuasive. You know, if you put me in a room with 4 other people, and they'll just say, "Look, if you'll shut up, I'll agree with you." You know what I mean? You just point out, look, who are we working for? If we're working for our citizens, let's start doing them some good.
Yep.
And what was the driver that convinced each of your city councilmen? Would it be the financial side of it? Was that the...
Yeah, I kept going to. I laid it out this way. I say, look, we've got 6 trailer parks, in the city, and there's a lot of people that live in the trailer parks that are retired. They're on $14,000 to $16,000 a year in Social Security. That's what they're getting. And I'll tell you what, if we're going to go ahead and add 3 highly paid firefighters that they don't need, you see, we'd had the staffing of 2 for 27 years.
And it worked.
Yeah, and so I couldn't sell that. If I'm going to go out there and push for hey, we really need this tax increase, can you go for it? I couldn't do that. And I convinced them the same way. I said, again, these people are counting on us to do the right thing. It doesn't matter what we're paid or anything. They've put their faith in us when they went ahead and elected us. And, I was fortunate to get, and they were from different political backgrounds and ideologies, but they all figured, hey, if we can do this, let's do it, let's get it together. And they're all very happy we did.
So was there a point in time where the whole council got together and showed unity, that some of the unions and the people in opposition to this backed off and said, we're going to do ourselves more damage than good by continuing to fight?
I wish I could say that happened. The unions never backed off. As a matter of fact, even after we first opened up in January, they were still running billboards on Interstate 10, trashing our fire department. They sent 4-page flyers saying that basically everybody was going to die.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. If they didn't keep those unionized, CAL FIRE guys in there. And listen, and I'm not, the CAL FIRE firefighters are great guys. But our guys have all of the same, training. They've got the certifications. They've been to the academies. And I'm sorry, a union card doesn't mean whether you can, doesn't give you the right to save somebody's life.
All right. Why don't we stop right there? When we come back from break, we start talking solutions. But before we cut into break, let's go to the phone line. We have Annette Flores from Yucaipa Animal Placement Society. Annette?
Hi.
Hi, welcome to U-Turn Radio. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you. So you're calling us from Animal Placement Society organization, right?
Yes, we are a nonprofit rescue facility for cats and dogs located in Yucaipa.
What do you guys really do out there with the animals?
So we actually accept pets from owners that can no longer care for them, and we also rescue from local shelters, primarily in San Bernardino County, but also Riverside and Orange County.
If you don't mind me asking, Annette, what are kind of the most common reasons why people can't keep their pets with them?
Unfortunately, most of the time it is financial due to a move, but one of the more common circumstances that is starting to happen is due to illness or death in the family.
Oh, wow. So here at U-Turn, like I mentioned, if you call and you talk about your charity or you let us know, we like to do what we call a spin for charity. So Tom's going to go ahead and spin for your charity and see how much we will donate to Animal Placement Society.
Okay, sounds great.
What do we got there?
$1,300 for
Nice.
Yucaipa Animal Placement Society. One of the things I like is in my notes, it says that that this initially started because all the dogs and cats, they had nowhere to go except for Betty's house. So it sounds like animals just kind of want to be with Betty.
So yes, Betty Martinez is our founder, and when she started 60 years ago, Yucaipa was very rural, and so a lot of animals would get dumped out her way, and she was very charismatic. She would take in animals and call all of her friends and say, you know what you need? I have exactly what you need, and she would take them the dogs that she found.
Oh,
that's great.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. She was pretty much a pioneer when it comes to animal rescue work.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Annette, for calling us.
I had a question. How many...
Oh, there we go.
There we go. I had a question. How many of the animals that you get in are the result of people making a decision to have a pet without really thinking through the consequences and then deciding afterwards that maybe it's not quite for them?
You know, for us, when people adopt from us, that doesn't happen all too often. But I am sure that many of the pets that are in the shelters that we rescue, that is the reason why they were surrendered to the shelter.
Is there any guidance that can be given in a situation where someone's considering getting a pet?
You know, I always suggest that you spend time with the pet, with us. We do have play yards at our facility, so when you come in to adopt, you can meet as many pets as you'd like. We also have a cage-free cattery, so you are able to walk into rooms with the cats and kind of let somebody pick you. And we also allow people a 24-hour hold time to think about it, make sure all the family is on board as well, and their other pets.
Do you ever allow more time than that with the pet to really make sure it's for them?
So our policy is that you've got a 2-week time frame where we will do a full refund of adoption fees for the pet, and we always do make it a priority to take in any YAPS alumni that needs to come in because the situation has changed. Recently, we had a family that adopted a beautiful dog from us. She just didn't quite fit in with their very active lifestyle. And so we did take her back, and she got adopted 2 days later. So, she just needed a different situation, and we'll be able to help that family with, a different dog when they are ready.
I think that's so true. It depends on your lifestyle to get an animal, for sure. Jeff, you have a question?
Yeah, no, actually, I was going to add in, and that, the YAPS is a great, great organization. In fact, I believe you guys just had a function at Fascination Ranch yesterday, didn't you?
Last night, yes, we did.
So, no, they're great. I think we've gotten animals from them. It's really good. They place and get animals that would have to be put down or whatever. They do a great job, and I would suggest everybody checks it out. If you're going to go get a pet, go to YAPS.
And it's better to do these type of organizations than actually purchasing one too, right?
Oh yeah, these are great animals.
Yes, and we do fully vet the animals, so everyone is spayed or neutered before they leave our facility, so they also get a basic vet check. And at that point, if there's any issues, we do find out about it, so we are able to do a little bit more for them.
Fantastic. Any questions, you guys?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annette, for your time, and we'll stay in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was Annette Flores from Animal Placement Society. We're going to cut into a break, and we're going to have more here with Jeff Hewitt on U-Turn Radio.
We'll be right back to U-Turn after this commercial break. Don't go away.
Come out and participate in the annual Run for Ruth Extreme 72-Hour Walk or Run and help raise awareness for domestic violence prevention. The event begins October 10th at the University of La Verne campus. Participants make their way through Southern California and across the finish line on October 13th between 9 and 11 a.m., returning to the University of La Verne. This is a free community event, and participants of all ages are welcome to join for any portion of the route. Bring a scooter, stroller, or just your running shoes and be a part. Help your community to end domestic violence. Go to runforruth.org to register, donate, or learn more about the event.
Support the San Bernardino City Mission. Your donations help feed the hungry, provide used clothing for low-income families, provide access to housing and rehabilitation for the homeless, and help all who come to them for help. The mission provides a personalized assistance program for homeless men and homeless women and children. They help get less fortunate off the streets, place them in safe shelters, and get them back on their feet. Last month, the community helped provide over 7,400 meals and provided nearly 2,000 pieces of clothing, as well as almost 180 hygiene kits, which were provided for the needy. San Bernardino City Mission goes above and beyond, though, providing personal counsel, prayer, and a devotion time to encourage those in need in their spiritual life. So listen up, everyone. For a donation of just $1.57, you can feed a hungry person right here in San Bernardino. $15.70 will feed 10 people, and $157 will feed 100 hurting men, women, and children. If you're interested in helping and want to know more additional information, you can go to sanbernardinocitymission.org or call 909-649-0011. 909-649-0011. The San Bernardino City Mission, feeding the hungry, helping the homeless. That number again, 909-649-0011. Or visit them online, sanbernardinocitymission.org.
How would you feel if you had to make a choice between buying food or spending your fixed income on life-saving medicine? No one should make that trade-off, but many low-income seniors are forced into difficult decisions like this every day. Smiles for Seniors Foundation provides energy assistance and safety net services to struggling low-income seniors in the Inland Empire. They provide one-time assistance to seniors to meet specific financial needs. They've helped with food, housing, utility payments, minor home and auto repairs, along with life-saving prescriptions or medical equipment. a nonprofit foundation funded entirely by donations from local organizations. Smiles for Seniors receives no funding from the state or federal government. They are funded by local businesses and individuals like you with big hearts and willing wallets. You can find more information or to donate to Smile for Seniors at 909-790-6671. That's 909-790-6671, or visit smilesforseniorsfoundation.org. That's smilesforseniorsfoundation.org.
Tom, Nadia, and Eric are back with more only on the U-Turn Radio Show right here on KCAA.
Welcome back to U-Turn Radio. Before the show, we have Jeff Hewitt, our guest for today. We're talking solutions here for County Fire in San Bernardino. We're talking solutions part 2. For part 1, you can always go to uturnradio.com where you would find different shows that we've had, and we've been covering fire. And right before we get back into our show for today, I definitely want to mention that this month is Domestic Violence Prevention Awareness Month. House for Ruth is having an event October 10th. You can go over to runforruth.org and get more information. They're doing a Run for Ruth is their annual 72-hour extreme walk or run community event with the purpose of bringing attention to healthy relationships and domestic violence prevention. So like I said, you can head over to runforruth.org and get more information if you want to be part of the
and meet
event.
Nadia while you're out there.
And you can meet me while I'm out there. Yes, I will do 1 hour of running. That's enough cardio for me because I don't think I could do 72.
I liked how you said 72-hour run. It's kind of
What hour are you going to be there, Nadia?
But you could do it in different dates. So I'm gonna be out there the 10th for 1 hour. And there's different stops that they're doing all over, and they're going back to Laverne, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm gonna start there for 1 hour, so you can meet me there and run for 1 hour.
Okay. She's the only one that doesn't have a face made for radio out of the four of us that are up there. That's for sure.
So you're more than welcome to meet me out there. So yeah, their event is October 10th, and you can go on the website to get more information and sign up and meet me there. We'll be running. So before the show, like I mentioned, we have Jeff Hewitt in the studio. We're talking solutions. So let's talk about the solutions that we can do here in San Bernardino. You have experience with Calamasa. You brought the budget down for your fire department. We went over that before commercial. So tell us a little bit of things that you would suggest.
Let me ask also while you're posing that question to Jeff that, Jeff's running for supervisor for Riverside County, so he's had the experience of implementing this at the city level within a county, and now he's certainly giving consideration to what can be done on a county-wide level. And we would like to know on both aspects here in San Bernardino County, what are some of the things that you would consider workable in the political climate you would expect in San Bernardino County?
Okay, so yeah, with that given, San Bernardino County is actually my second favorite county. Of course, obviously, since I'm running for county supervisor in Riverside County, that's my first. But what happens in Riverside a lot of times goes ahead and can happen back and forth one way or the other. Government agencies go ahead and they like to follow what works somewhere else. They like to follow it if it's not too painful for their political careers. What I see happening in San Bernardino County with this FP5, the problem with FP5 is that it's adding all these other areas. They're looking for ways to get money. They're not getting because you got a structured fire fee that's part of your property tax. That's not covering it. So what happens is that you can't, first of all, there are mandates put down by the state basically that are saying you've got to go ahead and do this, you've got to go ahead and do this, you can't change these costs. And what I'm talking about is that 4-year 22% increase that the governor signed for CAL FIRE. Now, San Bernardino County Fire is not CAL FIRE, but my opponent in this race actually, when he was an assemblyman, he introduced bargaining unit 8, which meant that all public safety employees and their unions would be checked every year to make sure that they were at least the average. Now, what does that do? That gets a spiral going up and up and up. Oh, they went up, now we've got to go up. Now they went up and we've got to go up. And that's what's happened. All these have become so expensive that they say, okay, let's spread out and we get all these other unincorporated areas to pay this $157 fee a year. And you're saying, well, that's not very much for each person. But I'll tell you, if you got people out in these areas that lost their houses in the Great Recession, and they're living in an apartment or duplex across the street, still seeing their house sitting there vacant, and they're eating dog food every night, and at least they have a Snickers to go along with it, This $157 takes away their Snickers. I mean, every little bit helps. There's always that straw that's going to break the camel's back, and this is terrible that way. So what I would do in Riverside County, we've got, it used to be 94 stations. I believe it's about 100 stations now. We are the largest contractor of CAL FIRE. I would look at our contract with CAL FIRE and even consider maybe getting rid of it, because I'm looking at what happens to those that 2.4 million taxpayers that are counting on a certain level of service. And if we're just saying, hey, this is all we can do, well, wait a minute, here's what I did in Calamasa and it worked. You know, why can't it work on a bigger level? You have the opportunity right now, if you can put enough pressure on those 5 county supervisors to say, hey, look, make a difficult decision. You know, act like you're a lame duck. If you go into office and the first day you act like you're a lame duck, you get stuff done. But it's going to take a lot. But I'm telling you what, these unions will do anything. They will make you look like, I mean, they will dig up everything for you past everything else. But if you're ready for that, you go out there and you can maybe accomplish something, and we can keep these costs down. Because otherwise, it's just going to go up and up and up, and there's going to be less and less service. Because once the unsustainable pensions kick in, as they're starting to do now, there are no answers.
Well, the supervisors already voted. 2 voted no, and 3 voted yes. How do the citizens, or what can the citizens do to keep pushing for that not to happen, or for us to try to make a difference?
Well, okay, so Congressman Lewis responded to 1 letter, right?
Right.
Okay, but I think that was more out of curiosity. What the heck's this guy know? You know. So, but hey, letters mean everything. They really do. If concerned citizens that feel like that this is really outrageous, and I believe it is,
right.
If they start sending, just piling up all those letters and emails and phone calls, that's how electeds start realizing that maybe I did something wrong. They've got to let them know that.
Yeah.
And then there's the upcoming election in San Bernardino County, which is 2 years off. There's going to be 3 seats coming up, and all 3 of those seats were the seats for people that voted yes on this. Am I correct on that, Tom?
I think it's 1, 3, and 5. So that wouldn't be true for District 1. Isn't it? District 1's Lovingoods, right?
Yeah, he voted no. No, he's coming. You mean he's coming up on this next election?
Yeah, 1, 3, and 5 in 2020.
Well, 2 of them are for people who voted yes on this. So there may be an opportunity. Jeff, in your experience in running for supervisor in Riverside County, how, if one solution is to get people that go in there that would act like they were termed out on day 1, and we've talked about that often on this show. How soon do you have to start on that, and how do you find those people that are willing to stand up to the pressure that you describe being applied, where they're digging up everything from your past and that type of thing?
Well, first of all, remember, with what's been dug up recently with Supreme Court justice and in presidential candidates and such like that, it can't get much worse. Okay, so and I think people are realizing that none of us are saints.
Yeah,
we really aren't. I mean, let's face it. How do you get wisdom? You get wisdom when you
try things, do
well,
things.
Yeah, when you fail, or screw up, and so everybody has that in their past. But you have to look at what someone does. What going forward, what do they do? I think that if you just get past it and start having faith in yourself, first of all, because there's a lot of good, really capable, competent people that could make great leaders. And I'm going to tell you this from my own experience.
And how do you find them?
Well, you go around and troll for people like me, where I'm about starving and I need that $300 a month, to buy groceries for my family.
Yeah, we put in a proposition to that effect that. The pay for a supervisor would be the same as the average person in the county gets paid, about $50,000-$60,000 a year, and it's not a full-time job. They only have to meet, every two weeks. Now they go to different things, and they get paid for those too. But someone who is looking at it as, I really could use the money is maybe different, because they're not that far away from getting booted out and being back to making what they would otherwise.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and this is what I can relate to people. You know, it was this challenge, especially with fire. The challenge, especially with fire, has been the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. Mm-hmm. The most difficult. I had to reach to areas that I didn't even know existed in my body, so to speak. I had to reach really down deep. But it's also been one of the most satisfying. It really has. I mean, when you accomplish something and people come and go, wow, can't believe you did that. And when groups like, you know, the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association have you as one of their keynote speakers on the 40th anniversary, you know, to celebrate Prop 13, you know, people start believing then. When people come up and say, hey, you're my hero, I can't believe what you did. You know, that is how it repays. You realize you've done something good,
right?
And there's nothing else like it. There really isn't. Whether you get reelected or anything else, you got to leave that behind. Go out and do your best job. And at the end of the day, if your constituents want to give you another crack at it, that's up to them.
So, how do you find them, and how soon do you got to start if you're going to run an election for a county supervisor, as you're doing?
Okay, so on a smaller scale, I found someone. There wasn't anybody going to run against the incumbent, and one other thing that was going to take my spot. And I found a young man that I built a pool for in Calamasa, who was very impressive. You know, he's a professor at Crafton College. He teaches politics. Got a great family, but he's got a real independent mind. Sharp guy. And I said, hey, you need to be on the city council. You are what we need. And by golly, he bit, and he's going to, you know, he's running, and I think he has a very good chance of winning that. But even if he doesn't this time, once the bug bites you, you know, you get in there, there's other perks. Listen, you go places.
So what I heard was, in two instances, an existing sitting council person, or in the case of a county, would be a supervisor, reaching out to say, hey, you would really do well. Seeing somebody in the community with some talent for the politics involved in recruiting them, so to speak. Maybe that's something that happens after you get people with the right motivation in there, but when you're trying to change the culture, I don't know that.
Well, the culture is this, too. Very few people even are up enough on the issues to make a difference. Yesterday, when I was at the Southern California Fair down in Paris, a gentleman came by, and he started talking to me, and he was really up on things. So I got talking. I go, hey, well, why aren't you running for something right now? And he goes, you know, Supervisor Jeffries has asked me that too. I said, you've got two guys now that are, you know, that are elected, and maybe both that will be supervisors, that say you need to get in. You're impressive. What we do is we let people, and I always do that. And, you know, even if somebody's a little bit different ideology than I am, if they're passionate, they have values, they're going to get together, they're going to get on a board or a body, and they might, again, if they're above reproach and they don't want to get bought off, they're going to make a good leader. And that's, I think our schools have to get better teachers that inspire kids to go into public service.
I agree.
You see what I'm saying? It's you're going to get a lot of stuff thrown at you. When things go bad, guess what? It's on your shoulders. But when things go good, you can say, hey, I helped accomplish that.
Let me ask you, though, for, like, let's just say people that want to do that transition, how was your transition from, you know, having your business going into this whole different world that you never seen before? What was that transition like?
It was difficult at first because in a business you say, okay, wow, you know, we got to do this. We don't have the money to do this. We got boom, boom, boom. You know, it's black and white stuff. You know, you're always thinking you got to make, you know, revenue. To get revenues, you got to have your costs down and everything else. In government, it's a lot worse than people think it is. So you get in there and you kind of got to you can't change it overnight. So what you do is you try to make things that bring it closer to a good business model. Government will never be like the private sector, but by golly, we can get it a lot tamed down to a beast that we can manage, that serves us, and that is a lot more efficient with those things that we ask it to do.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point there, and that is you can't change it overnight, and you can't change it on yourself, because there's, you know, if you're elected supervisor, you're one Superman 5, you're going to have to gain consensus from at least, you know, 2 others to pass something.
But there again is where you have to be, and part of it's a personality thing. You know, you don't burn bridges. You never do. It doesn't gain anything. You remember, you're working for your constituents. So if you let your ego get involved and you go ahead and lose it or something like that, you could set whatever cause you've got back, you know, years. So it's really important to keep sight of the goal and to get all the people necessary, to carry it out. And at the end, you can show people that these ideas work. And that's our system is still one of the best in the world. And that's we have to take advantage of it and get people inspired.
Right.
So one solution for this problem of it that resulted in an unfair FP5, let's tax the unincorporated areas for increased spending in the incorporated areas, is essentially what it is. One solution is for a number of those maybe unincorporated areas. In Wrightwood, we put in something called a community service district to put their own fire department in the way you did. And I would think that a lot of those areas in this county with the vast open spaces would look a lot like maybe Blythe, where you could have a fire department for 29,000 people for $400,000, as opposed to Wrightwood having a fire department for 4,500 people for, boy, what do they got? $2 million in ambulance, 900.
I think Chief Harwig said 2.2 million is about average.
And I think he wasn't counting the ambulance insurance, and he wasn't counting the fees.
That's not 201. 201 rights, which is taking, transporting to the hospital, which is, in Riverside County, there are only 3 cities that have their 201 rights. They're grandfathered in. That's Rancho Mirage, Indian Well, and Palm Desert.
That's the right to do ambulance transport?
Yeah, so ambulance is a whole AMR.
Are you guys doing that in Calamasa?
No, see, in Calamasa, in all of the AMR, the big Canadian ambulance company, they have the exclusive right for ambulance services, or 201 rights, in the county of Riverside. So that's a whole different, that's a separate thing. That's outside of that cost and everything else. Now, I've been talking to another city, and I won't say which one it is, but they've given notice to a much larger county fire department, and they want to use our model. They've been out talking. There's other cities going, wow, look what Calamasa did. Yeah. This can save our constituents. We might even be able to put some potholes get filled once they repeal SB1, so we'll have money left to actually fill the potholes, So
it does apply, but it probably doesn't apply for, the bigger cities? It applies for, cities of 20, 30, 40,000?
Well, the city that's talking to us is closer to 100,000. So.
Okay.
Oh, no.
So it had multiple fire department. multiple stations.
Multiple stations.
Is there any characteristics where it applies better? Like if it's a small area, very dense, is it going to be better than a wide area that's not dense? Where you got a lot of property tax revenue and for a very small area to serve?
No. Actually, our model works anywhere.
Okay.
It would work downtown LA if we would take the hideous, influence of these public employee unions that pretty much manipulate the people that they negotiate with, the very electeds that they do, get them out of the picture and let market rates go back to. Remember, 70% of all the firefighters in the United States don't get paid anything. They're all volunteers.
70%, you said?
That's in a lot of states. That's what you run into.
No, that's what it's been all the time. But we have become this powerful enemy that has a PR thing going all the time. Remember, anytime there's a fire, it's on the, and then people are out there thanking them for, their service and all this stuff. But we need heroes, we do. And firefighters make those perfect heroes. But you're not going to be a hero if you're bankrupting the very people that you're trying to save their lives.
Right.
Well, they still have the heroes in Blythe. They're having 6 heroes per call instead of 2 or 3.
Right.
And they're 400,000 for 29,000.
But see,
there are these solutions out there.
But we can
say have everything.
But we can say for a lot of urbanized area, the model that Calamasa used, where it's basically you've got that fourth firefighter that's working their way up. I mean, they're an intern reserve. We've gotten rid of all these programs because the union doesn't want them. They want to get that. Hey, we're this, and you're lucky if you become one of us. So she's right there. Yeah. So anyway. That's what we're looking at. I think this model will work anywhere, and it's up to the courage of the electeds to try it.
Okay, and the last thing you never said, what is the lead time if somebody wants to be elected a county supervisor to run? you have a little experience with that.
Okay. So if you're going to go ahead and run in 2 years, you better start
Now.
Started right
Today.
now. You better know. And because it's going to cost you anywhere from $500,000 to $1.5 million. Honestly.
Okay, that's the budget.
And you were, so you better identify your sources for in that, and you better get out there and get your name out there and start stumping right now, because it's a long haul, and
and that's, said from somebody who's in politics as a mayor.
And running for supervisor, and we hope it's going to get elected over in Riverside in the upcoming election.
Well, that wraps up our time. Thank you so much, Jeff Hewitt, for being with us. And I do want to say this because I don't think we've mentioned this. We've reached out to Supervisor Ramos Hagman for an interview, and they never replied back because this is a subject that we've covered for so long, and we wanted to get their input, and we never got a response. So, but thank you, Jeff, for being with us.
Always happy to.
And this was U-Turn Radio.
KCAA